It is August 17th, meaning it's been a month since I finished my first draft. Well, it's almost been a month. I think it's officially a month on August 23rd, which means it's finally time to take my draft out of the drawer and read it. So, here we go. I've missed you. No, I didn't actually leave my laptop in the drawer for an entire month. I genuinely don't think I could survive a month without my laptop. It is true, though, that I haven't touched the document for Operation Ark in a month. Well, like 28 days. The reason I haven't touched my draft since I wrote it is because I think it's really helpful as an author to let your draft sit for a bit after you write it before you go back and edit it. I think it's a really good practice to edit a document in a different headspace than you were when you wrote it. It doesn't seem like a lot, but a month can feel like a long time to spend away from a document. And to be honest, I forgot a lot about what this document looks like. Not in the sense that I have no idea what Operation Ark is about or anything like that, but I kind of don't really remember that much about what I wrote on the page a month ago. Which is the point. I want to look at this story from a different lens. Also, I'm not going to lie, I am pretty terrified to see what I have on these pages. Hopefully it's not going to be as bad as I think it's going to be, but I have a feeling that this editing process is going to be pretty rough. Who knows though, maybe this is going to be a lot better than I think it's going to be and I'm just being too hard on myself. There's really only one way to find out. Before I go ahead and read my draft for Operation Ark, I thought it'd be a pretty good idea to take some time and kind of set up my goals for the rest of this project. For that, I have this dry erase board that I bought for college that I used to kind of set up my goals for the semester, and then I proceeded to not look at it once for the entire year. It's very faint, but you can still see my original goals. The first project we have here is Beyond the Woods. That was supposed to be a writing/video game project. The idea was creating a text-based story game where you could pick different endings based on like what happens in the story. And yeah, it was gonna be a cool text-based horror game. That says October. The idea was to release it for Halloween. If you're wondering why I haven't made a video on that project yet, it's because I have yet to complete it. This was supposed to be October last year, by the way. I don't know if I made that clear. Oops, I'm pointing with my middle finger here. Yeah, this week I'm going to actually pick up on working on Beyond the Woods again. It's not going to interfere with working on Operation Ark at all. I find I can only work on one creative project for so many hours in a day, and right now, while I still don't have a job, I have plenty of time to work on other projects. This summer, while I haven't really talked about it, I've actually been working on game development projects at the same time I'm working on writing projects. I actually have a second channel where I talk about my game development journey. It's in its infancy, but it's a lot of fun. If you want to check that channel out, it's going to be in the description below. But yeah, I'm kind of getting off track here, but really quickly, I really want to work on Beyond the Woods going into this week and next week because I've done a lot of work on both game development and writing this summer, but I don't really have anything to show for it. And that makes sense. It's only been one summer, and it takes a long time to write a book. And then for game development, I'm early into learning how to develop games, so I really haven't released anything yet. Even though I have done a lot this summer, and I have documented it on both my YouTube channels, I think it would feel good to just create a game and put it out there. Also, in writing for Beyond the Woods, I think it would be really cool to explore writing for a different genre that I don't typically write for, and also writing for a different medium. Books are not the only way to tell a story, and I think it'll be a really fun experience to make an interactive game. Beyond the Woods is also a perfect game for me to create since it's centered around text and there's no art, because I absolutely suck at art. Other things I have on this list of things that I thought I'd accomplish in my last year of college that I did not include Binary Gods, which is actually one of the original names I had for Operation Ark. Operation Ark is not a title that I'm using to kind of conceal the title of my book until we're closer to the release day. I actually have no idea what I'm going to name it. At one point, I was considering naming this series of short stories The Broken Covenant of a Binary God. That's not going to be the name, though. I don't like it. I liked it for like a week, and then I hated it. I really do need to come up with a name, though. And then I had Subdiver, a submarine diving-based video game about a certain submarine incident that happened last year. Also, in the bottom here, I have words written 0. I thought I would update that word count throughout the year. I didn't. Although, to be honest, if I did update that word count throughout the year, it would probably be pretty close to 0. In reality, I actually think I wrote around 60,000 words during my last year of college, which is not great, but not nothing. That is 60,000 words for my own creative projects. I'm not counting anything I did for any business classes. Although, to be honest, we didn't do much of any writing in my business classes. In fact, I don't even really know what we did for my business classes. I will say it was a much more enjoyable experience in my computer engineering undergrad. That was awful. Anyway, I'm getting off topic again. I'm going to wipe this board down so I can kind of make a timeline for my goals moving forward for Operation Ark. This is not really coming off very well.
Really?
Some of these colors are not coming off.
This is the most working out I've done in a few weeks.
Remember when I had all those fitness goals this summer? I gotta get back on that. There are a few marks here and there, but I think that's the best I'm gonna get it for now. I think I'm actually gonna take a break to cool off for a few minutes before I do this timeline. Okay, I don't know if this is inverted for you. If it is, I'm sorry, but I made a very basic timeline for my schedule for Operation Ark. I've actually barely planned this out before this, so we'll see how this goes. So right now we're in mid-August, and I would say I have until November to kind of finish this second draft of Operation Ark. I don't know if I should say second draft or maybe first draft. And by that I mean kind of consider the first draft I wrote as draft 0. Upon saying that, I don't really know why that makes a difference. But by November, I want to have a draft that's good enough where it can kind of be seen by other people. I'm gonna need to get another marker. This is like the third marker I've gone through. We're back. So I found some more markers lying around. I think these are dry erase. They're a different color than what I was using before, but this is kind of ugly anyway, so I don't really care. This chart isn't really for show, it's more to keep myself accountable. Although if I'm being perfectly honest, what keeps me most accountable, other than my love for this series, is actually doing these weekly videos. To be honest, if I didn't have this weekly vlog series, I honestly think I'd still be on my first draft of Operation Ark. Anyway, let's see if this marker works. Operation Ark draft. My handwriting is dreadful. I could never be a teacher. When I say like first official draft or like second draft, what I'm really meaning is this is going to be the first draft where I think is good enough to be presentable to other people. It's not by any means going to be perfect, but I think this is going to be the first draft that actually looks presentable and similar to what the final copy is going to look like, if that makes sense. The draft I kind of have right now is just a random set of short stories along with a prologue and an epilogue. Some of the stories are more complete than others. They don't really gel together. It doesn't really feel like a full project. There's also scenes and notes in there that wouldn't make sense to any other person except myself. I want the draft in November to be complete enough where I feel comfortable to show it to friends for initial feedback. And that time frame between November and December is kind of when I want to have other eyes look at this project, because then I'd be taking another month off from that draft like I did for this draft to kind of take a break and work on a different book. Why November? Well, November is National Novel Writing Month, and I think it'd be really cool to kind of work on a different project for a month and then come right back into Operation Ark. I'm not going to get into too much detail here, but the book I want to work on in November is Talia's Ghosts. And I do want to have that project completed by the start of December so I can get right back to working on Operation Ark. And this marker is starting to die. Unbelievable. Let's see if green works. During that time in November, I'm more thinking of having friends look at Operation Ark. I'm not really thinking of hiring an editor yet. I am going to hire an editor eventually, but this is more to get like some first eyes on the project and then make some simple fixes. Or, ignore my friends because I'm perfect. So hopefully by December, I'll have some feedback on my draft of Operation Ark, and hopefully by then I'll also have a job so I can start saving money for an editor. Normally, I would assume the edits that you do after you get feedback from your friends should be quicker than your initial round of edits and your initial round of writing. But since I'll hopefully have a job by then, and I say hopefully because the job market is not looking so great, especially in tech. But hopefully by then, I will have a job and I have less time. And because of that, I'm going to give myself another 2 months. So by February, I want to have a third draft of Operation Ark. I know the camera angle is not great. You can't see that well. Believe me, you're not missing much. So hopefully I get a job, and hopefully by that time in February where I finish with this third draft, I can actually have enough money to send it off to an editor. Now, I'm going to be honest, I really don't know that much about hiring an editor for your book, how long that takes, and what that process really looks like. So for now, I'm just going to block off a month for it. If you've written a book in the past and you've actually hired an editor, please tell me about your process and what it was like. Is this month between February and March I have blocked off unrealistic? Also, where do you hire an editor from? I truly know nothing about hiring an editor or working with an editor, so anything you know would be greatly appreciated. I'm then going to give myself from March to May to kind of finalize a product for Operation Ark. Give myself 2 months to take in what the editor said and really implement it into Operation Ark. In that time frame, I think that's when I'm also going to be hiring a cover artist. In May, I think that's when I'm going to really put together my marketing campaign for this book. Having taken marketing classes during my MBA course load and also having popular writing accounts on Instagram, TikTok, and even YouTube, I have a feeling that marketing is going to go well for me. I could be gravely mistaken here, but to be honest, I feel like marketing is going to come pretty naturally to me. Having said that out loud, I'm aware I probably jinxed myself. And I could be wrong, but just where I'm at right now, I feel a lot more comfortable with my knowledge about the marketing phase compared to the editing phase and all that stuff. And then, yeah, if all this works perfectly, which it most certainly won't, but if it does, I have plans to publish Operation Ark in June. In my head, that is the best case scenario. I am realistic, though. I understand a lot of this can go completely wrong. I understand from college that I do not balance writing with other responsibilities very well. So while I have been working on this project at a great pace this summer, I understand if I actually get a job, it could really hinder my pace. So with that being said, as long as I publish this book in 2025, I'd be absolutely thrilled. And if not, this vlog series of publishing my first book is going to be a very long one, but I won't be disappointed in myself as long as I work on it. Giving up is really the only outcome I cannot accept. So here you go. This is my basic outline for completing Operation Ark. Keep in mind, when I outline for my books, I do have a tendency to go completely off script. Anyway, now I'm going to take a quick break, and when I'm done, I'm going to read my draft for Operation Ark, and after, I'm going to see how confident I still am in this plan. I haven't even read it, and I already feel less confident. So I read the prologue and the first few stories of Operation Ark, and I'm not gonna lie, they are pretty rough. That being said, I'm not gonna be too hard on myself. There definitely is some solid foundation here. And to be fair, I knew there were gonna be some rough parts here and there, but parts of it were just hard to read. But that was to be expected. This is a first draft. This first draft probably barely looks like what I'll publish down the line, and that's perfectly okay. Now that I have written it and I've read it over, I'm officially one step closer to finally creating that final draft. So you know what? Even though what I've read so far from Operation Ark is not pretty, I definitely think that schedule I made the other day is still feasible. Anyway, while it would be easy to kind of sit here and just dunk on everything I didn't like about this draft, I think it'd be more constructive to kind of talk about what I did like. While I won't lie, reading the first few stories, I have cringed a lot. I have not cringed at the dialogue. The dialogue is actually pretty strong, in my opinion. The last line in the prologue is still just as strong as I thought it was when I first wrote it, which is amazing. You know, sometimes you write a line and you think it's like really awesome, and then you read it again, and you're like, this could use some work. That's kind of how I feel about the first line of the prologue now, but hey, we'll get there. One thing I'll give myself a lot of credit for, and will definitely make editing and rewriting a lot easier, is a lot of these stories are to the point. If anything, some of them are too straight to the point, but I kind of prefer that than having a story that's kind of all over the place. Early on from the stories I've read, the two things I really want to work on in this editing phase is making them kind of flow better together. And then I also really want to do a better job building up the environment of an arc, which I think will be a lot easier to do now that I've kind of mapped out the arcs in a previous week. On top of those two things, I kind of also want to build more connections between these short stories. Most of these stories take place on completely different arcs, so it's not like I have characters or events rolling between stories, but I do want to have more connections between them. I want them to feel like they belong together. But yeah, next week's episode of The Road to Publishing My First Book, I'm going to show a lot more of my editing process and my rewriting process. But in general, I basically want it to be me taking 2 or 3 short stories every single week and just focusing on them for the entire week. And that way, by the end of the week, they'll have some level of polish. In my drafting phase, I feel like it was more about me puking out as many words as I possibly can, which was great for getting words on the page, but now it's time for me to really focus down and make these stories as good as I can make them. And that's why I haven't sat down and read this entire draft. Since Operation Ark is a series of short stories, I think it makes more sense to read the short stories as I go back to rewrite them and edit them. And maybe it's good to read these short stories in short doses, because at points these were really hard to read. And I think part of that too is I've been reading a lot of sci-fi this week, from Solaris to The Forever War to I read I, Robot. And I'm reading all these books and short stories, and I'm like, wow, these are so much better than what I've written in my first draft. And yeah, that can get discouraging, but I'm not letting it let me down because, hey, it's a first draft. On some level, it's supposed to suck. Otherwise, you'd have authors out there publishing first drafts left and right. I think that's a good positive note to end this week's vlog on. Thank you so much for watching this writing vlog. If you haven't already, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. I promise you the next writing vlog will be out on Sunday. I know I fell behind again this week, but I promise the next writing vlog will be back on schedule. Or at least I hope it'll be back on schedule, because when I miss on one of these writing vlogs, what ends up happening is I don't have time to do another video. Which really sucks, because I want to get into the system where I'm making 1 writing vlog a week and then 2 other videos. Or at least 1 other video. For a while now, I've wanted to do a video talking about how to grow your author platform on Instagram, and I've also wanted to do a video about how to write humor. Hopefully, I can make at least one of those next week. Until then, see you Sunday for the next episode of The Road to Publishing My First Book. Have a great rest of your week.